Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into the ProRevenge archives. Our first story today comes to us from Darth Zeno. Fire me cause I was sick? Have fun making minimum wage. Let's jump right in. This took place a couple years back and one of my old coworkers said I should post it here. So this happened during the beginning of my senior year in high school. I was balancing out football, school, and work. I worked at a convenience store chain that's only around in my region of the country, USA. I had an incompetent store manager. She was lazy, never wanted to do work, and all the store associates, including assistant manager, were always stuck cleaning up her mess. She took 2-hour lunches and always thought it was appropriate to leave her shift early. For some reason, and I'll never understand why, but she did not like me for whatever reason. A good example was her writing me up for using my cell phone on the floor when it was my mother calling me asking when to pick me up, didn't have my license when this was going on, or the time she gave me crap for not fully stocking the fridge. Now, she came in early in the morning and I would usually come in at the end of her shift because I had school and football practice. Then there was the night shift after me. She would come in the morning and see the fridge not fully stocked. This was just an example of how much of an idiot she really was and how she should be giving the night shift guys write-ups for that, but no, I was her main target. Now, I had gotten very sick one weekend and had called into work that I couldn't come in that day. None of the managers or assistant managers were in, so the team lead took my message. Looking back at it, I should blame him more than my idiot manager. I assume he never told the managers I was out, because come the next week, I had a football game on Saturday, and I usually work Saturdays, and when I had gotten that job earlier that year, I gave her my football schedule so she wouldn't put me on for that day. My boss calls me Friday night, telling me I need to come into work Saturday because I missed work the previous week, and no call, no show is automatic termination. I told her I did call in, but she didn't believe me. So instead of her telling me I was fired, I said I quit right there on the phone. So I guess she didn't fire me, but fired me. I don't know. Now to the revenge. I already had plans to get her fired or demoted. Either one would have made me happy. Over the course of that month prior to my departure, I had taken video and pictures of how bad she had that store running. By the time I had gotten to my shift, I had taken pictures of filthy floors and bathrooms, flies all around the food assembly area, associates on their phone, even the manager herself playing games or whatever right on the floor, basically showing how she kept her store a wreck during her shift and I was left to clean up the rest. I ended up sending this all the way up to our regional manager. She was banging our district manager. If I sent it to him, it would have gotten buried. And I got a response back that the situation would be handled accordingly. District manager ended up getting fired due to incompetence, and he was also under fire initially for sexual assault allegations from other store workers. And my store manager was demoted all the way down to a basic store associate. The icing on the cake was a year later after I quit or got fired. I was working at a warehouse that year after I graduated, making almost $20 an hour. There was another one of the convenience stores right down the road from my building. I ended up going there for lunch, only to see my old boss getting reamed out by that store's manager. So with the knowledge that I was making almost 3 times her hourly wage, store associates only made $8.35 an hour, and she was still incompetent at her job, it made me quite happy. I want to go right back to the beginning of this story where they say they got written up for having their cell phone out on the sales floor. Yeah, that's a normal thing. It doesn't matter if it was your mom or not. No cell phone policy is no cell phone policy. I have to admit though, the manager in this case does sound like a pretty big douche canoe, using their phone on the floor when they've told other people not to, taking extended breaks and all that stuff. Some people really take advantage of that manager title and really don't deserve it. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our next story today comes to us from Artisan Thankfully. Steal from my dead granddad, lose your benefit money. Let's jump right in. This is a family-style revenge, so get ready. My granddad had lived down the road from us since before I could remember. He would always play with me and my sister when my mom had to work, and I thought of him as my second father. He kept a really expensive platinum necklace on as a keepsake from my grandmother, as he always told me stories about her and the wars he served. Some background now on my aunt's family. They were basically people who refused to work and were actually proud of scamming to the government to pay for their lifestyle. Through benefits, they would falsely claim on mental disability and being obese as a justification to not work. At the time, getting as much as my mom would at her full-time job. My cousin had literally texted me at the time that he doesn't want to work and play on his Xbox. They never visited my granddad, and for good reason. He was physically disgusted with a lot of them. So here is when the story starts. My granddad winds up in hospital due to a heart attack. My mom, my sister, and me show up to care for him. After 3 days, and when the doctors explain that he hasn't got much time left and to say our goodbyes, evil aunt rocks up with her family. So much for being so ill you can't drive to get a job. They ask how much time he has left. Us, wanting to be civil, told them and led them in to talk to him. He then passes away after another day, and we get together to decide how he would want his funeral. Since my gran was buried in Cornwall, we decided to host the ceremony there so that they can be buried together. Cornwall was about 300 miles away, but we thought it would be worth it, and I still lay down flowers every year. Evil aunt and her family not only do not want to go down to Cornwall, they refuse to chip in even 50p down for anything. So they decide to stay up and watch his house. I know, red flags, but we were mourning, so we didn't think it through. The funeral was beautiful, heartfelt eulogies that brought memory after beautiful memory. All was well, except they had dug the wrong plot and they decided to tell us during. Maybe one of Granddad's ways of making us laugh up there. Until we got home, empty. Anything of value was gone, and the only thing left behind was some paintings from my grandma. She was a really good artist, and me liking art as well decided to keep them. We were pissed. We went to evil aunt's and she denied everything. We had nothing on her at the time, so we decided to file a police report and left it at that. Until 3 weeks later, when we came round to visit and see everyone was coping. My mom had noticed some new expensive things, new TV, new PlayStation, the works, and she began to suspect something, as well as me and my sister, until evil cousin comes in and he is wearing my granddad's platinum necklace. I asked him where he got it from, and he told me he had bought it with some money he got from selling pot. Yes, he sold pot as well, but I know that's my granddad's necklace. We get in the car and all of us are seething. They are no longer family. We need revenge. The revenge time. Now, I mentioned before that they had been falsifying their medical records so that they received benefits from the government. Every time we would go over and sneakily take photos of everything they had just bought, as well as my evil cousin's stash of pot and my uncle's collection of stolen goods. Forgot to mention he would steal big items off of vans and then sell them online for an extra profit. We collected every text message of them, bragging about their many fancy holidays and them refusing to want to work. Compiled a case report and anonymously sent it to the claimant investigators and let them do their jobs. A month later, I hear from one of my other cousins, nice girl training to become a nurse, and I really admire that she didn't take the path of her family. That evil aunt and uncle got their benefits taken off them and had criminal charges and had to pay restitution to the businesses they stole off, and my evil cousin got arrested for dealing pot. They are now financially effed. I think the last time I talked to them was them asking for money. Since I came from a well-off family, they thought I could convince my mom. She doesn't want to speak to them. I told them to F off. All I really have to say about this story is that people that rip off their own families are especially vile scum. Moving on, our next story today comes to us from Harry Monk 1. Mike finds a way to get rid of problem employee. Let's jump right in. The revenge wasn't mine, but I figured I'd share as I was witness to the beginning. Certain names and details changed to protect the guilty. Background: years back I worked for a large bank in the UK. We all worked on the same floor and in the same department but within different teams. I was just passing through on a secondment and saw the beginning of this revenge but was filled in on the aftermath later. One of the teams was run by a woman called Sarah. Sarah was by many measures a good manager, but she had a blind spot. That blind spot was a woman called Helen. Now, when I was in my previous role, I interacted with Helen a fair bit, and she had seemed friendly, but when it came to actually working with her, she was a nightmare. She'd tattle, steal ideas and credit, and generally throw you under the bus at any opportunity. I'm not sure why Sarah always protected her, but it soon became a sore point for most people on the floor who had to deal with her. Enter Mike, who was the manager of a smaller team. Mike could be a bit of a dink, but was still professional and fun to work with. To give you an idea of his character, I found out I was being made redundant, and even though he wasn't my manager, he heard about it and booked time out to help me with my CV and do interview practice. Shortly after, it was announced that Mike's smaller team was being dissolved, and the staff either made redundant or moved to other teams. At the time of the cuts, the economy in the UK was in a bad state, and all the banks were looking for efficiencies. He was redeployed and took the vacant manager role under Sarah that Helen had been gunning for. To make matters worse, Helen now reported directly to him. Helen was furious and spent no time in making her discontent known, as she felt she was entitled to the promotion. Unfortunately for her, Mike was wise to her. They'd both joined the company around the same time, and so he knew exactly what she was like. He'd even had her blame him for her mistakes before. Crap, even the project she'd gotten so much praise for had been work one of his staff had done. So he started the process of documenting her poor work and attitude to manage her out of the business. Sarah, however, would not allow it. Helen was a high performer in her eyes, and she wouldn't sign off on him getting rid of her. When I left the team, Mike was frustrated with her and wasn't sure what to do. The revenge. I met up with Mike a year later and he shared how he solved the Helen problem with me because he knew all of the issues I'd had with her. Because Sarah had his hands tied, his only other option to get Helen out of the team was for her to leave of her own accord. He couldn't oust her by making her life difficult, or she'd go to Sarah. So he went the other way. The mother effer sat through every performance meeting with her for the rest of the year, gritting his teeth and praising her. That then justified him giving her a really high performance rating. He also used his own contacts to find roles in other teams at his grade that he then talked up to Helen. These roles were specifically selected because they specialized in one of the things Helen claimed she was an expert at, but had very little real experience in. Basically roles where he knew she'd have the highest chance of crapping the bed. Eventually she applied for one, and he spent several weeks coaching her for the interview. In the company at that time, the interviews were scored off of three main factors: performance rating in current role, competency-based interview results, relevant experience. He'd done everything he could to make her shine in all three. She took the promotion and within 2 months had quit the bank. He knew she wasn't ready for the responsibility, didn't have the skills, and her poor work ethic would be exposed. Worst case, she'd get her crap together, and he'd still look like the perfect manager to Sarah. What an interesting way to get rid of a person that you don't want at your work. Not something I think I've ever heard in a story before. Apparently there's actually a saying for this. It's called demotion by promotion. I learn something new every day. Our last story today comes to us from Mode Zeet. So you won't pay me back? Well then, let's jump right in. 2 months ago, I lent what I thought were friends, $700. They came to me begging to help them out to catch up on bills, specifically on their car loan. They told me they were 2 months behind on it and didn't want it repossessed. So me being the gullible soft touch I am, I lent them the money. Now they promised to pay me back $233 per month for 3 months until I was fully paid back. Note, I didn't even charge them any interest. Well, it came to the first month and guess what? Yep, no payment to me. They came up with this really half-baked excuse that they were behind on other bills too now. So the next day, I take a drive to their apartment to discuss this with them. What do I see when I walk in their living room? A darn brand new 52-inch LED smart TV mounted on the wall. At first, I didn't say anything about the TV. I asked them why they reneged on their agreement to pay me back, and I got the same excuse. We are really backed up on our other bills and have been paying those off too. This is when I pointed to the brand new TV and said, well, WTF is that new TV? And last month when I was here, that was not there. The answer I got floored me. They told me it was none of my effing business what we spend our money on, and they would start paying me back next month. I was fuming so much I just walked out and went home. Well, I thought to myself, I will give them to next month and see if they start paying me. Well, next month came and guess what? Another effing BS excuse. This time, it was their dog got sick and they had vet bills to pay. Now, I was effing pissed off and in full revenge mode. I drove over to their place late at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, and wrote down the VIN number to their car and the license plate number. The next day, I started calling car repo companies to see if the car was up for repossession. Well, guess what? It was. Those effing lying buttholes never made a down payment on their car on over 5 months, I found out. The woman I spoke to was nice enough to tell me who the lien holder was. I then told her I knew where the car was and I was willing to let them know for a finder's fee. They agreed to it, $250 finder fee. I met with the repo agent 3 days later and showed him where the car was, and he handed me $250 and then went and hooked their car up to haul it away. Meanwhile, I was sitting in the tow truck the entire time. Next thing I see is those lying buttholes come flying out of their apartment screaming at the tow truck driver that he can't take their car away, that they were all caught up on their payments. That is when I stepped out of the tow truck and they saw me and I said to them, "Bull effing crap, you're caught up. I spoke to your lien holder and you're over 5 months behind. And this is what you get for lying to me and ripping me off, douchebags." See, this is why if you loan somebody money, you need to have it down in writing that they're going to pay you back and have some kind of proof that you gave them the money, be it an e-transfer, PayPal statement, whatever. Because then you can take them to small claims court and get that money back. So another thing though is right back to the first place, when somebody asks you for money and then they tell you they're behind on their car payments, what makes you think they'll be able to pay you back if they can't keep their bills up in the first place? Just never lend money to friends, it never works out. Check out all 4 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.